Right. Welcome to IAmFiveFifths. I'm your co-host, Ahmad Mansour.
And I'm your other co-host, Bill Thomason. What's up, Black man?
What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm really excited, man. We got a very, very, very interesting cat who might even be my family.
Could be.
Coming on today.
Right. So, you're right. This is a really interesting podcast because we get to talk about something that you and I really put front and center, for Black men, and that is health.
Yes.
And when you say health is a very kind of broad term. It can mean a lot of things, but for us, we're talking about holistically and some of the practices and modalities that can support that. And so I think today, we have a brother here today that could speak to a very powerful modality that goes back a very long time. So today we're going to talk about yoga and health and Black men. So I would like to introduce our community to ShakaJamal. And ShakaJamal is a known, I think Emmy Award winning or Oscar Award winning filmmaker. And he also has, along with his practice, a yoga studio that's both in person and also virtual called Namaste Ready.
Yeah.
So today I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with the brother that will definitely enlighten us on the old traditional practice of yoga. How you doing, brother ShakaJamal?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good to be here today. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man, it's we've been looking to get you on here for a while because yoga is such a powerful practice that means so many things to different people. There's all these different branches, and it's just not the practice of kind of the physical, but there's many other things that go along with us.
That's right.
Can you just give us I wouldn't say a definition, but just describe what is yoga and the practice of yoga.
Well, there are so many ways to, like you said, to come about it and to explain what it is. But for my practice, a lot of it has been about mastery of your breath, your mind, and the movement of your body. Yoga means to yoke or to bring together. And when you bring your movement, your focus, or your meditation and your breathing all together in one, that's yoga. And when I talk to people who are beginners who know nothing about it, I say, "You breathing, right?" I say, "Yeah, you're practicing yoga." But it just becomes how aware you are. Your level of awareness has the ability to increase over time. The more you practice, the more you focus on your breath and your movement. And it's not just what you do right there on the yoga mat, but how you interact with family, your community, people at work. Everything becomes this balance between your inhale and your exhale and the gifts and challenges that come in between that.
So how did you get into yoga? What sparked your attention?
I think the first thing where I really my mind began to expand, I was in the Peace Corps in South Africa. I was part of the fourth group of U.S. volunteers to be in South Africa back in 1999.
Wow.
Right. And they wanted me to shadow another Peace Corps volunteer who had already been there for about a year before me. His name was Hai Vu. And he taught me the sunrise salutation. And from there, I practiced it off and on for probably about 10 years. Right. And that was about my depth of it, just going through that sunrise salutation, because it's a pretty dynamic sequence that is a good way to just exercise and to stretch out and strengthen the entire body. Then when I got back to the States, I started learning about Naroga Institute. I think I knew another filmmaker who was associated with them. I started taking classes and then learned that they had a yoga teaching class, a 200-hour certification. And I really didn't want to be a teacher. I just really wanted to immerse myself in the practice and really learn what it's all about. and I've been having some health challenges too. And it was a way for me to just, dedicate myself and my time to improving my health. And by the time I finished the class, they were like, okay, time to go teach. And I was like, what? I completely forgot about teaching. But at that point, I also realized that what I had learned over the course of time in that class is that this was something that I couldn't hold on to myself. This is something I had to share with my family and with my community.
Well, first a shout out, and Bill, I'll turn it over to you in a moment. But a shout out to Naroga.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with them. I actually used to take a couple of courses there, even though they don't really offer courses anymore. I don't
yeah.
think they've kind of,
Not as much, especially during COVID. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But they don't have their they definitely don't have their 200 and 500 hour certification
right,
anymore. So I
right.
know that was like, and they were also had scholarships for black folks and folks of color because their main mission was also to change the zip code of yoga. And
Yeah,
that's
I mean, they were really into the community of practice, but more than anything, and I think they've really shifted towards really making that organization about mindfulness for children and teachers, which I
in
think is
schools, yes, they have a goal for 1 million students in the US to be practicing yoga and mindfulness.
yeah, that's great.
Dynamic mindfulness, what they call it for the schools, which is
Where,
more of a secular approach to yoga.
Yep.
I want to ask, because I've heard this a lot. I'd love for you to talk about, to your knowledge, the origins of yoga and where it
Oh,
came from.
well, much of the practice that we are doing today um, has its origins in India and the South Asian area. Much of the popular yoga that we practice today, because many of those practitioners actually started traveling to the United States and spreading what they knew, what they learned from their gurus from India and that area.
Hmm.
Also, I have teachings that basically anywhere you have pyramids, you have people who practice yoga.
Oh
So
wow.
that's where I was going. Actually, man, that's where I was leading to, man. My mother was practicing yoga back in the 70s, man. And it's late 60s, early 70s, for a black woman to do that, that was rare
That's
back.
right.
And I remember her telling me that a lot of these origins came from what they thought were the builders of the pyramids.
That's right. That's right. And for those who know, there's pyramids in Africa, right?
Yep.
In
Yeah.
Egypt, throughout Sudan, Upper and Lower Egypt, right? They're in Asia, right?
Yep.
They're in the
Mexico.
Americas. Yes.
Mexico.
Mexico, Belize, parts
Yep.
of South America. They even have found some underwater.
Hmm.
Yep.
Um, and also from my teachings from some of my elders is that all of those people came from one particular place, right?
Right.
And they said one of the fascinating things about pyramids, I know this is a bit diversion, is usually,
That's okay.
archaeologists, when they go and they study what they call ruins, usually they'll have a society that built itself on top of one society, on top of another, and then you can see the advancement in technology.
Hmm.
Wherever you see pyramids built, there was nothing there before. They came there and they made whatever they made perfectly the first time.
Hmm.
Even these pyramids in Egypt, in Kemet, they can't recreate that right now. The,
Hmm.
the mathematics is so on point that it's beyond the level of people, even the greatest scientists and mathematicians right now. So I also have studied Dr. Muada Ashby, who has some books on ancient Kemetic yoga, on the
Hmm.
origins of what we see on some of the walls in Egypt with the hieroglyphics, the Medu Neter, and all that. So I actually had a class yesterday. I'm doing a March Monday meditation class at 5:30
Hmm.
online all
Oh,
throughout
that's
the
great.
month of March. And what I let people know is that there's something deeper beyond what we see in yoga, because many times it's described as from India, and in the US, the majority of people practicing are white women. But
Yep.
in this origin, it's that, you know, they may be Indians, may be more known for the meditation practice, but Black Americans are known for the prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, being in the gospel church and everything like that, Baptist church. But there are actually two sides of the same coin, right? They're like Black Panther and Killmonger, right? They're two sides of the same coin. So the prayers, when you're talking to God, talking to the universe, talking to that higher power, saying what you need or just giving thanks. But the meditation is when you listen, right? So one is you're actively putting energy out, and the other one you're actually receiving that energy. But many of us usually don't take the time to be still and to listen for the signs, that for these things that we have been praying and asking for. So we have to have those two to have that balance, and those things are African in itself. No matter if you're saying it's African existence in ancient Christianity in Ethiopia, or you're talking about the Yoruba people in Ifa. It doesn't matter. That is all a part of our indigenous tradition from Africa. The prayer and the meditation and learning how to be with that within our environment and nature.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Excuse me for a minute, Ahmad. I just want to add this, man. I'm so glad you brought that up because, when we started the conversation, we talked about Black men and health and yoga. But what a lot of Blacks don't know is that we have yoga origins in Africa.
That's right.
Because I think the yoga that we see in the United States is so commercialized now, right?
Oh, it's a
I
$1
mean,
billion industry.
dollar industries built around mats and yoga pants and t-shirts, and it's so commercialized now. It's not like, I remember something when my mother saw that I was starting to practice when I moved here in the early 90s, and I just remember her saying, don't lose focus for what yoga really is. And my mother was a woman of kind of a few words, man, but when she spoke those words, you listened because they made sense. So, Ahmad, I know I interrupted you, brother. Go ahead. I know you wanted to say something.
No, it's all good, brother. No, I just really want to expound a little bit more around breath.
Yes.
Yoga, because, I actually, last week when I went to class, we had a whole discussion around breath, and just some of the things that I thought I knew about breath, that I learned about breath, that in that particular session was pretty incredible. I don't need to go in and tell you about what I learned, but can you share with our community what breath means to the human in terms of vitality and how it plays into the practice?
Okay, so and this is what I share to really simplify and focus things in most of my classes. The human body can live without food for about a month. We can go without water for 4 or 5 days. Some of the great masters like the Buddha, Christ, so, this documented say they might have gone 7 days without water. The average person can't hold their breath for more than 60 seconds. The first thing that we do when we're born from our mother's wombs, we inhale. And the last thing we're going to do before we leave this earth is exhale. So with that focus, we say that our breath is our most important energy source that we have here on this earth, that ties us and keeps us here so that we could live out our destiny and do what we need to do while we're alive. So being able to master our breath is a part of mastering life in itself and all the mysteries that come within that.
So what does it mean to master breath in terms of our daily lives? I mean, what should we be doing to bring attention and consciousness to breath as a source of health?
Well, I think that first of all is creating maybe even just 5 minutes a day, starting off to say, I'm not going to think about anything else except for my breath. And sometimes the best time to do that is in the morning when you wake up before you reach over and grab that cell phone, right? And it's about maybe sitting up in the bed, closing your eyes and just focusing on the air coming in and out your nose, or focusing on your belly button. And just, you can set a timer. You can even do it for 60 seconds, 2, 3 minutes, 5, whatever the choice is, and just being able to do that on a regular basis. And the masters say even that particular practice, just 5 minutes a day, doing that for 100 days straight, it's gonna start changing things in our lives.
I'm glad you actually mentioned it that way, because I think as a way of demystifying yoga, especially for uh, Black men who have not been exposed to it, a lot of our assumptions around yoga is that it is, I think there's two assumptions basically that you see now. One is that it's so steeped in tradition that, to practice it, that you must be in some of the most traditional poses, and you have to kind of have a certain type of disposition for it. And I think what you just described was just something that made it where anyone every day can access
That's right.
their breath, and so uh,
That's
that's a great description.
Yeah, that's definitely just one way, is taking out that time. If you're in a stressful work environment, stopping for 1 minute in the middle of the day and just say, I'm just going to focus on my breath and nothing else, right? Because many times in our society is this capitalist society. It's about extracting as much as you can from
Right,
people as possible,
right.
right? But in that knowing, many of us don't nourish ourselves because we're constantly giving or somebody's constantly taking away.
Yep.
And we have to do that for ourselves because no one else is going to actually do that. And also, we got to also think about the power of breath and these things that have been coming up that have actually transitioned the world into a new type of paradigm about Black men not being able to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, yeah.
Right? We
Yeah,
got to think about
say more about that,
we
man.
got to think about what happened 2020 when the Black man's breath was taken away for the whole world to see.
Mm.
There were protests going all over the world, right? From a Black man's breath taken away, right? That's literally what happened. And for us being able to maintain our breath, to grow the strength of our breath, even that itself is a revolutionary act.
Mm.
Right? To first say, I am important. I deserve to be alive. I deserve to be treated well. I deserve to breathe. Even that in itself is a it's a fist in the face of oppression right there. And we can also try to see what is important about us. What we can see what has been taken from us, and we can see what can never be taken from us, and being able to pass on these insights to our family and community, because we went through a lot in 2020, with COVID, the quarantine, and in the midst of the protest. And it was a lot for a lot of us, and even myself. I still haven't watched the video, but I know what happened, and I know the repercussions.
You
And
mean George Floyd?
George
That video?
Floyd,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yep, yeah. It took me a long time before I could even watch it.
yeah. I don't know if
The
I'll ever watch it because yeah, it's just too much.
I always go back to something you just said, man. One of the things that the last things he said was, "I can't breathe."
Yeah,
And one of the things, since we all know this is not a rehearsed podcast, man. Y'all live and in color, as they say. I would love for you, man, before we close. I mean, I'm not trying to close down now, but before we walk away, I would love for you to be able to give us some breathing exercises,
okay.
something that we can actually share with the people that are listening on our podcast that we can actually use every day. That would be an amazing gift to give to our listeners.
We can do that.
All right, right on.
Definitely do that.
So you've been able to incorporate And I'm so glad that that you are doing this, you in particular, as I know you,
Okay.
to incorporate the practice of yoga to Black men. And you just kind of spoke about that a little bit.
Mhm.
Can you tell me what kind of brought that attention and that kind of immersion of the two? And what does it mean to be a Black man and practicing yoga?
Well, I could say when I went through my training, I think I was only one of two Black men in the entire training,
Mm.
right?
Out of how many?
There might have been 30 of us, maybe, like at least a
Okay.
full classroom full of folks. Um,
Hmm.
and the style in which I was taught was Raja Yoga, which is more of a meditation practice, meditation focus, more focus on your breath. It's not always the same sequence you see sometimes in other styles. And also, a lot of it is about how do you relate the class, the poses to everyday life, right?
Right,
So it's about bringing metaphor, right? So that the people that you teaching will know not only how to do it, but why they're doing it,
right.
right? So when I was, I had to give 100 hours for free to the community after I got my certification. So I taught at EOYDC, East Oakland Youth Development Center,
Mm.
Growing Roses in Concrete, you
Okay.
know, the charter school in East Oakland, and also Juvenile Hall off 150th, Alameda County Juvenile Hall. So many of
Okay.
the folks had never practiced yoga before, and majority were Black and brown. And I had to speak to them and get it to them so that they could hear it in a way that they could hear it and say, hey, you may not think this is you, but this is you.
Right,
And a part of what Namaste Ready is about activating the healing powers of the Black community. So we're activating. If we activating, it means there's already something there, right? Maybe the switch just has to get turned on. So for me, it's just like the main focus is for us to be able to see ourselves in the practice and know that it is nothing foreign, right? And if it's foreign, it's only because it's something that maybe we have forgotten about or lost touch with. And many times, somebody will have one session and they won't believe maybe how deep they were able to go in that particular session, or they find out yoga wasn't what they thought it was, and they're able to become more open. And also, sometimes when these spaces, so June of 2020, we did 21 days of yoga for Black men, right?
I
We just
saw
had,
that. I saw the email for that. Yeah.
yeah, and throughout this quarantine, also, all type of brothers been hitting me up about yoga classes,
So
right?
what are they asking you? What are they saying to you about their interests and their desires?
Hey, sometimes they be like, "Hey, you do yoga, right?"
like
Right?
like on the slide, right? Like on a slide, right?
Yeah. But, they try to say so they were like, "Yo, I've been seeing some of your advertisements. Yo, what's that about?" And then we'll talk a little bit. And I was like, "Yo, I gotta do a class for the brothers, right? Because they are actually, I'm talking about all type of brothers from
Yeah.
all type of walks of life. I'm talking about from corporate tech people, right? To people that walk the streets of East Oakland with no problem, right? And we have to create, I figured like have to be able to create this space so that we could all come together and not only practice, but also talk about some of the things we need to talk about, right? So it also was a space where brothers could come up and be vulnerable about some of the things they were going through pre-COVID and also during that time. And we found it was very important to be able to do that. And brothers started to reveal things that maybe they hadn't ever shared in their life. Because most of the time we had like a quick intro, everybody introduced each other, we practice, and then as we close, we have a closing discussion. And the last
Mm.
one we did out of the 21 days, the class is supposed to be an hour. That thing must have lasted 3 hours.
Wow. Well, you know what's so interesting is, and this is what really makes it, that what you just said, so powerful, is, that's really the power of yoga too, is that once you get into the postures, the asanas, and the breathing, and you start feeling your body becoming more in union with many aspects of your consciousness, right?
Mhm.
Man, it just opens you up. So just the fact that you just mentioned how brothers were willing to have, these really open conversations, that's really the benefit of yoga, is that it opens up the meridians and everything that allows for you to bring yourself into that type of interaction with other brothers, and
Yep.
sharing what really matters deep to you.
Yep. And if you're in a circle of people who look similar to you, who have had similar experiences, it just gives us that much more permission to speak up and speak out. Because even for myself, at times, if I'm especially when I start off, I'm in a yoga studio. I'm the only black person, only black man. It's like in my head for like the first 15, 20 minutes, and not till I really get into practice can I maybe just push it out and
Right,
focus on practice. That just becomes so self-conscious.
right.
But a lot of that in the circle of brothers, after a couple minutes, we just in there.
Right.
And that's right. And it's about removing the barriers to our health and to our success. And if I can help facilitate that process of removing those barriers, that's part of the job that I want to do, to make all of this more accessible to us. Because when we first started doing the classes, I had a group of people, and we would actually rotate leaders of the class, because we all had different backgrounds, but we were all black men who were yogis, and we had another sister with us also.
That's powerful.
Um, we focused on East Oakland because we figured in Oakland, East Oakland had the least amount of resources um, of any part of Oakland in terms of alternative healthcare practices. And we're like, okay, this is where we're going to bring it. And that's what we focus on. And still to this time, when we are able to do more physical classes, we still want to be there in East Oakland.
Talk about some of the practices that you think are good, because I'm going to guess that maybe a lot of the men that are listening to our podcast have never experienced yoga before. What are some of the basic beginning yoga classes? I can't think of the word I want to use right now. There you go.
You said
Uh,
what?
for beginners.
Postures, asanas. Well, let me just add this too. I know one thing, man. I know most brothers be like, "Hey, please help me open up these hips."
Touch my toe, right?
Yo, for real. And you know what happens is you might be sore,
Yeah.
right? You
Yep.
might be sore. But I know for myself, after about 3 days of practice, something starts opening up, right? Because it's not, the thing is with the yoga is that when the mind is able to relax, the rest of the body is able to relax.
Right.
So where you might be if you're only just trying to do calisthenics, but might take you maybe 6 days, it might take you half that time if you're balancing the mind, the breath, and the body, because your breath and the mind kind of gives the body the permission to just relax, because sometimes we're stuck in this fight or flight. So the body is tense and ready to go. And this circle that we create is like, okay, let's let the guard down and let things flow. And one of the first postures is mountain pose, which is one of the most simple ones. Mountain pose is just standing, lengthened up on your feet. It's just standing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also about aligning yourself so that the crown of your head is all the way up, pointed towards the sky. Your spine is as lengthened as possible. Your feet are about hips width apart. And you're standing there strong, looking out, imagining yourself standing at the top of a mountain, having a clear view of land, of the forest, or anything that you're particularly looking at. and you're standing there strong, but not stubbornly, right? And can you imagine us doing that in a yoga studio, but also being able to practice that outdoors? We actually in nature, right?
Yeah.
And that's a large part of the practice too. Like a part of my practice is my goal is when I do meditate, that take that time in the morning, I'm doing it outdoors, so I get that fresh air right from the trees. Because that's a part of this formula. We don't have the air or the oxygen without the relationship with the trees, right? So I know y'all seen those diagrams where they'll have branches of the trees and they'll have the lungs, a picture
Yeah.
of the lungs, and they're almost inverted. It's
Yeah.
like they're like almost like a yin and yang aspect, right? So that's a part of that formula. Is that fresh air, which is a challenge many times when we're living in the city. You know, West Oakland has some of the highest asthma rates
Yeah.
in California, right? So we want to try to, if we can, do this in nature, where our feet are planted barefoot in the soil. We're surrounded by trees, breathing in fresh air, and the sunlight is hitting us. And if we look at COVID going on right now, we're saying a lot of people have these vitamin D deficiencies. A lot of vitamin D you can get from the fresh rising sun in the morning just by sunbathing.
Yeah.
15 to 30 minutes. But much of our society, we're on the devices. We get from our house to the car to work, we're inside all day. And these are vital nutrients that we need, not only for our physical body, but, as I've been taught by the elders, when you have fresh water, fresh air, fresh sunlight, and fresh soil, you're able to receive certain messages that may be blocked out if you're always surrounded by concrete. And some of these messages and insights we need for our own particular survival and success in life.
Well, that's such a powerful articulation, brother. Thank you. Because, as you were just saying that, because I try to get myself outside and practice yoga, and even some of the poses that you just mentioned. Man, it's so liberating. Because so often as Black men, we are in the world, and we are, we're navigating, we're taking hits, we're ducking, we're doing positive things. I mean, we're engaged, whatever that means to whatever brother. But there's something about being able to get out in nature and to really have some practices of release that is so liberating, because it makes all those things and all those narratives that we often construct around our experiences in this reality, those things just kind of like go away. Like it is you and your own sense of. So I think that's very powerful. But I got to tell you a quick story that's so funny.
Okay.
Because when I am out there and I do try to get my meditation on. There's been times, man, where I'm in it, man, then I'll hear an animal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, who you creeping up on?
And I'm going like, who that? Hold on, who that?
Luckily here, there's not too many wild animals that's going to get you. It's rare. I mean, we got some mountain lions out there, but it's rare to come across, very rare to come across one. All the bears are gone, basically.
I know when you're a brother growing up in urban America, you question every sound that you hear out there, man.
Hey, for real.
Yeah. Hey, so tell us a little bit about. I think this is really great, man. That you've taken your background as a filmmaker and your practice as a yogi, and you've been able to create some storytelling that becomes a narrative for Black men and the practice of yoga. And we're going to show a clip here of your trailer. Can you just set that up for us?
Well, this one here, we're going to watch the trailer for my upcoming feature documentary, I Am Hope. And this is like a sneak peek. This trailer isn't even out yet. So I'm just happy to y'all invited me. We can share it. But hopefully, screenings will begin no later than about the 3rd week of April.
Okay.
And this one here is a gift of the quarantine, right? So I was leading a yoga initiative at Frick Middle School in East Oakland, while I was working with Naroga. And throughout that time, all type of people will be coming through, taking pictures, doing filming of this program, because it actually became the first middle school in OUSD, Oakland Unified School District, to offer yoga as an elective,
Oh, wow. Wow.
right? So I'm sitting there during the quarantine like, yo, what happened to all that footage folks were shooting? So I started hitting up different film crews, started going through my own cell phone footage, and talked to a couple of the people who were actually one of the crews and asked if they wanted to help me work on this documentary, and to say, listen, we're in the midst of this quarantine. Let's see what we could put together. And we have about a 60-minute cut, which is basically a found footage project of what it was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, while teaching this. And much of it is focused on the children and their perspectives of how the class went for them and their introduction to yoga.
All right.
So,
Let's
huh?
take a look.
Okay, for sure.
Something was shifting with my students when someone was really upset. And he said, I just need to breathe. I just need to take a moment. I was like, wow, what if I would have practiced? It's pretty tough to go out here. It's a struggle, but you can do it. Like when you feel powerful, you know, it's so but the only way you can do that is you exercise that power that's within. That's where the mindfulness comes in. My dream is that they can take that, internalize it, and just share it with others. Because we feel that we're all one. We're all in this together. Don't you give up. We do those things to free our minds, to emancipate our minds. Here with me, I have three of East Oakland's finest. You say positive things about yourself. Just a smooth, quiet place. You know, getting through some type of stuff. Just going up in life.
Love it, brother. Love it.
Man,
You,
love
you,
that, man.
you know, man, one of the things that I do miss about Oakland is the beautiful tapestry of kids there, man. You know, like, you know, I had an opportunity to work in East Oakland at Fremont High School,
Yeah.
and you know, there was nothing better than walking through the school and just seeing the tapestry, the kaleidoscope, and the beauty of just the different students and their styles, and just
Mhm.
how much culture was there, man. I really do miss that, and that's what they kind of remind me of. Now, their education that they get is jacked.
Mhm.
Now, let's not forget that. I mean, like, that was all that's the part that always made me sad, man, was that the educational system left them without any um, any sources to go out into the world
Yep.
with, you know, which is unfortunate. But I just love seeing that.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
What age group was that?
Middle schools. They were all like between 12, 14, 15.
Man, I was just looking eyes. I know the people listening to the podcast, they didn't see it, but as I was looking in these kids' eyes, you could just see what they were experiencing, meaning
Yeah.
they were open to trying something new.
Yep.
You could see that this was new to them. but yet they were open to it. And you and I, we all know a lot of time it's the way you present it. And
Yeah.
that was the power that I saw in that video, was the way you presented it to them. You related to them. You know, you didn't talk down to them. One thing we all learned, because we all were kids once, right? The one thing I told somebody, kids can smell a mile away.
Yeah.
If you come in and you phony and you faking, they gonna know it.
Yeah.
And that I could see that they were so into that and to trying something new. That's amazing work you're doing, man.
Give thanks for that. I just can't wait for these youngsters to see it. We're in contact with a couple of some of the lead ones, and hopefully, once we get our first screening secure, we're going to be reaching out to all of them, make sure they can come through. And we're going to, we've been doing some fundraising to help finish the film. So this next month and a half is going to be very exciting as we start wrapping up the film, doing the fundraising, and contacting all the kids in here.
That's great.
Right
Well,
on.
we're coming close to an hour here, and
Already?
I know, yeah, man.
I thought we was just getting started.
I know. And so I definitely want to, I think it'll be great to kind of end here with what Bill suggested. That's great. But before we get there, anything else you want to add to this conversation about the why and the what, or the how of yoga and its relationship to Black men?
Well, I think one thing I want to highlight is that I think talking to other Black men during this time of the quarantine and COVID, many of us began to think even deeper about our purpose in life. And realizing that if we do not have a purpose, life is not as meaningful. And if you are interested in just even examining and learning the deeper aspects of yourself in life, this is one particular way, this is one particular door that you can walk through. And it's something that is there for you every single day, and it doesn't cost a thing, right? There's plenty of free classes out there and everything. You want introduction, things that you can Google. But the most important thing is like what I was saying earlier. Before you reach for the cell phone when you wake up in the morning, sit up, take 60 seconds, 5 minutes to just be with yourself and just only focus on your breath and not a single other worry or potentially good thing that could happen to your life. It's just to be neutral with it and then just see what comes. Because there's, like you said, it's $1 billion industry, right? But it's really for free.
Love it. All right, so let's
priceless.
So this
priceless.
It is priceless, brother, and we thank you. This is just such a blessing. So if you can, man, just take us through a couple of breathing exercises. I may put on mute, so Bill, when he's done, why don't you put your finger up, man? Because my gardener's here, so you may get a little.
And let me ask you, am I popping up when y'all talk? But because I noticed that my screen doesn't turn green and everything.
You're fine.
Oh, I'm good. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Okay.
So luckily, I don't have my favorite bell here with me, but luckily I have another bell that I use in one of my classes. And Naroga actually gave me this one during my training, just a little chime.
Okay.
All right. So what we're going to do right here is called the bell exercise. So this is most of the time the first exercise we do in every single one of my classes, whether it's beginning or advanced. And what it's used to do is to start focusing our mind on the here and the present and letting go of anything that happened earlier in the day before class or anything that might be happening afterwards. So what we're going to do is focus on the sound of the bell, blocking out all external or internal distractions. External might be cars passing, other people in the house, whatever it is. Internal could be your own mind, conversation, chatter, or different sensations that you're having inside of your own body. And After you can hear the bell no longer, you just give me a thumbs up, and we'll do that 3 times. All right? Y'all
Okay.
ready?
All right.
Okay. So first, listening to the sound of the bell, blocking out all external, internal distractions, listening to it till you can't hear it any longer. First time with your eyes open, and then a thumbs up when you can hear it no longer. All right, our brother got the headphones on. He was listening to it. All right, let's take an inhale in through your nose. Let it out through your mouth. For the second time, eyes open once again, focusing on the sound of the bell till you can hear it no longer, and a thumbs up once the sound is gone. Nice. Another deep inhale in through your nose. Let it out through your mouth. And for the last time, we're going to do the same thing all over again, but with our eyes closed this time. See if we notice a difference. Nice. Whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes.
Yes.
Love it, brother. That's it's powerful. It's powerful. That's a good. You could feel the centering that taking place fairly quickly with that one.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to sink in.
Yeah.
Talk about posture too. I know, man. I'm hoping we're gonna get off of here in a minute because man, this is one of those things I'm fascinated by.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I wanted to just ask you about was posture, right?
Yeah.
As we're doing some of these basic exercises around breathing. Can you talk a little bit about that and how important that is?
Yeah. So in the beginning, we don't focus on posture so much. It's just about taking out the time just to actually practice, right?
Okay.
You can either be standing up or sitting down, whatever. It's just like you get comfortable and let's do it. But as we advance, the goal is for your spine to be as lengthened as possible, your crown up to the sky, because that's one of our major energy centers in the body, where our brain is sending messages up and down our spine.
Mm-hmm.
Hormones, endorphins, all of that is going through, and that's that main communication source. And it's a lot of the ancient teachings. Much of our transformation comes from the root of our spine spiraling up towards the crown of our head, right? But also a piece of that also is that we need to have a strong core, which means that we have to exercise our core, our stomach muscles, our back muscles, so that it's easier for our backs to be more lengthened when we practice, and we're able to be more relaxed. And this reminds me of something I wanted to say earlier, is that also to put in perspective of what meditation is about. Our ancient priests and priestesses who were in the mountains, in the forest, in the bush, meditating, they found out that the more they sat still to meditate, the more their bodies would be in pain. So yoga was developed so that it would strengthen out the body, lengthen it, make it more flexible so they could sit for longer periods of time searching for these answers in life. Right? So yoga is an ends to a mean for us to be more connected to our meditation and to our breath.
Okay.
Right. So many times also in class, what we do, we start out with the bell, We'll get into the yoga, but then we'll take another 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes and just sit in meditation. Because once you go through that yoga, your body, you just open.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And instead of just hopping up off the mat going, okay, let's let this settle in a little bit so that we can harvest what we've cultivated throughout that time. Right? And that's a large part of what it's about. And if you know you've practiced yoga, you know some of these postures, they will challenge the core. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key part of it.
You know, man, I
Brother, we
can't
want to
thank you
thank
enough.
you
Yes.
for this. This has been illuminating. It's been everything that we wanted to experience with you today. And wow, we're looking forward to engaging you more.
Yo,
So blessings, brother.
that's
Well,
it.
Shaka,
Thank you.
and Shaka, tell people how they can find you,
Okay.
your website, your social media, for all the people that are listening on the podcast.
Yeah, so you can find me at ShakaJamal, ShakaJamal on Instagram and Facebook, as well as namasteready.life, NAMASTE ready.life, both on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the best ways to catch me. Namasteready.life and Shaka Jamal. And I just really want to thank my brother here for bringing me on. And man, I wish I would love to come and do it again. I would love to come visit you in LA and everything. I would love to get a yoga, us just we can just get together, do this again, and do a yoga class. But I really appreciate what y'all are doing for Black men and for the community, and just wishing y'all best wishes and blessings on all of this.
Thank you, man. Same to you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Let me just stop this.